Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. I cannot breathe. What else is new? We keep promising we're going to change this little setting right here, which probably comes down to time and time management, which is part of what I wanted to talk about. Claiming to not have time versus the reality of how we're spending our time. Like, that's basically it. I was listening to a podcast by Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School, and it was a really interesting thing on creating a time journal and what she does with her clients to help them get a better sense of how they're actually spending their time. And I thought it was so interesting because she was suggesting that we kind of have this running record, a response that we give people automatically when we're explaining why we can't possibly do that because we don't have the time. And there's some things in our mind that we immediately say, we don't have the time because I'm taking care of family. I have to drive my kids to so-and-so. I have, a meeting. I need to exercise. And we rattle off this whole thing to justify why we're not giving the time. But that rarely matches what's actually taking place. And I know that's true for me because often I will say what I'm supposed to be doing, the whole list of what I'm supposed to be doing versus the reality of what I'm actually doing. But TikTok, like in my heart, I'm doing a whole checklist and getting credit somehow based on what I should be doing. And it's a bad deal. It's really bad. So let me go ahead and read a little bit of this, and of course I will include it in the description of the video. And what it says is that she has people do this exercise, and again, I recommend it. It could be one day, it could be a whole week, and a week, of course, would be far more revealing. But she says, sorry, let me go back a little further. She says, one of the first things I like to do with my clients is have them keep a time journal and write down everything they're actually doing with their day. This is actually a really powerful thing for anybody to do because most of us have an idea, a story about what we do every day. And then there's the reality of what we do every day. And usually those two things are very different. Once you have what I call a time journal for at least one day, you can do it for the entire week to get a really full snapshot of your life, and the more detailed that can be, the better. The next exercise that we have you do is write down what your priorities are. Whenever I ask anyone to do this, they always come back with this question. They'll say, well, do you want me to tell you my priorities the way they are? Or do you want me to tell you my priorities the way I wish they were? And that's a really important distinction between the two. What my clients do is write down what are their priorities the way that they are right now. This is a really revealing exercise for people because they have the reality of what their day is, when they have what they think their priorities are, and then they have what they want them to be. And I will tell you, the three lists never match up. So let's go back. This is really revealing because people say the reality of their day, the actual record of what their day is, versus what they think their priorities are. And they're going to find that what they claim to the world they're doing doesn't match what they're actually doing. And then finally, the third list of what they wish those priorities were. The reality of our day, the story of what we think is important to us, and the story of what we want to be important usually doesn't match. And I agree. The first thing that we do is we look at why. Remember that. That's our most important question. Why is the day? Why is the week looking the way that it is? Why are we making the choices that we're making? And why are our current priorities lined up the way that they are? Why is that different than what we want our priorities to be? And she goes on to explain that a lot of people will say their number one priority is family. Their number one priority is their spirituality or their faith. Their number one priority is some relationship that they're in. But when they look at the list of what they do in a day, it doesn't make any room for those things. Like ideally our actions are supposed to lead to the conclusion or the benefit of what our end game is, right? So why is that entire list of priorities not including any steps that will get us to our end game? And I think that's really important, and I get it. Because again, I often say what I think people want to hear in the sense of what I'm supposed to be doing. And it doesn't match what I'm actually doing a lot of the time. You know, even right now, yeah, doing my Jules Best Vegan video is super important to me, and I'm going to do it, and it's on my list of things to do. But how much time I spend in between, like, well, I'm still thinking about what I'm going to say, and I think I'll go ahead and play, a solitaire game, and I think all these things. And my husband will say, Juliana, how long was your video? 7 minutes. How many takes? 1. Okay, so why have you been out there an hour and a half? And I'm like, oh my gosh, because of all the nonsense. I spend a lot of time avoiding what's due. And I think a lot of that is because I'm fear-based. When she's asking about the why, I was thinking in that movie, The Devil Wears Prada, and I remember the girl kept answering the phone every time her boss called, and she would drop everything and everyone to answer that phone and appease the boss. And she kept telling her boyfriend, but I love you so much, but I care so much about you, but I care so much about the relationship. And he finally just said, you know what? The person on the other end of that phone is the person you're in the relationship with. Like, her why and her priority, I do believe maybe in her heart, wanting her boyfriend in that relationship to work was a priority, but her actions were not leading to the success of that at all. And, that's so many things. I just get it. I just so get that. I'm not there yet. I'm forming the whole thing, but I so get it. So it says, when you look at how they're spending their relationship with their family, it's all... I think she has a typo. Hold on a second. Sorry, you guys. So the second most important thing that people say they want in their life is a relationship with God or spirituality, or the relationship with their family. When you look at the amount of time that they're spending on their relationship with God and their spirituality, it's usually non-existent. When you look at how they're spending the relationship with their family, it's all, it's a typo. It's all be default. It's by default. It's all by default. It goes on and on. Career, how they're spending time taking care of their physical body, how they're spending time contributing to their community, creating a legacy, spending time with their kids, whatever they want their priorities to be versus what's going on in their life. That is so powerful, because what that means is they're letting their life up. This is my favorite line of all. Please take it in. Let's all breathe a moment. Ready? All right, ready? Take this in. It's the best. That is so powerful, because what that means is they're letting their life happen to them instead of creating it based on this map of their priorities. What? Tell it, sister. Tell it. Oh my gosh, isn't that it? Life is coming at us so quickly that we are letting it happen to us instead of controlling it. I had an interesting thing this morning, and I'm going to end with this because, again, this is newly forming in my mind. I'm interested, and I'm going to commit to doing that time journal. And I want you to take a moment to read this, which I have in the description above. But this was really interesting to me this morning. Okay, so like half the time in the morning, at some point as the clock is ticking and I'm realizing that my goal is to be out of the house by 6:05 and it's 6:11, I start freaking out, okay? I either start talking to myself more, I'm cussing at myself, I'm telling the dogs to leave me alone, as if, I didn't even tell the bird, leave mom alone. They're like, really, lady? We're not doing anything to you. I just start, flipping out to get out of here as quick as I can. And then I get to that car at, 6:13? Like maybe 3 minutes later than my goal. I mean, whatever. So this morning, I intentionally slept in. I slept in until 6:15. I slept till 6:15, okay? And left at 6:45. And I was going to get to the school at the required time. And somehow in making that commitment, even though all of my minutes were the exact same, there was no rush. There was no panic. There was like nothing. I knew what I was doing. I knew what choice I made. It was okay. I mean, it should have been as desperate as ever. I mean, the clock's ticking and you gotta go. There was no desperation. It was the same amount of time. It took me the exact same amount of time to get ready and get out of here. But there was no desperation. There was no panic. There was nothing. And I was like, wow, how weird is that? And it was the difference between life happening to me and me controlling my choices in that time. Same time frame, but a whole different mindset. And I think that's what's important about honoring priorities, right? I allowed myself to sleep a little more because I'd had a terrible night and because technically I was prepared for school. But I've been prepared before and had a terrible night before, and I was a panic attack. And it was just a small glimpse about how it could be different. It could just be different. All right. Well, that was a whole lot. And I hope you found interested in it. I'd love to know what you think below. Oh, but a side note. Okay, check it. So this is one of my favorite tops. It makes me happy. I love the color, right? Okay. Somehow, in all this time, I have absolutely shrunk. And this top, needs to be retired. I need to donate it and let somebody else love it because I kept it in great shape. What I was realizing is when I wore this before, if I sat down, it was so tight on me that my husband would say, honey, that's opening. He would say, you're showing your, and I'd be like, oh no, do you think I need to put a safety pin? Hello? All right, so I don't know what my weight will be on the 1st, but I know I'm going in the right direction. Thanks for your support, you guys. Like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe, and until we talk again, best of all, trust that you're blessed.